Hi, I'm Clarissa Gonzalez with the Art Museum of South Texas, and I'm back making our project focusing on our sense of smell. Today we'll be making a fruity still life painting with Kool-Aid. In your kit, you will find watercolor paper, a brush, and different flavorings of Kool-Aid that you can paint with. And then you will need water, paper towels, and then either some fruit to use for your still life or a picture of fruit. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put your still life together. I have some fruits here that I put in a basket, and this is what I'll be painting today. Your next step is that you're going to want to fill your cups with water about halfway. And then you're going to want to grab a spoon or your brush and mix these really well because you want all that powder to dissolve. And you want to make sure that your brush is clean in between mixing all of your cups. At this point, you're ready to start painting. Can you tell what flavors the colors are? So when you start, I recommend starting with a light sketch. You don't have to do this. You could go directly into painting because it is your painting. I, however, am going to draw a quick sketch. Before you start painting, you're going to notice that there's two different textures on the sides of the paper. So when you touch it, you can actually feel that one side is rougher and one side is smoother. You want to start on the rough side of the paper. So at this point, I'm going to start sketching my fruits. Now all I'm generally drawing is just a rough shape. And at this point, I'm ready to start painting. So there's actually two ways to paint with watercolors. There's the wet on wet technique and the wet on dry technique. I'm first going to show you the wet on wet technique. So what you'll do is you'll take your clean brush and you're going to want to wet your brush with clean water. And then you're going to lightly paint into the shape of where you want that color to go with the clean water. So at this point, you won't really be able to see anything, but you'll be able to tell that the water is wet, or the paper is wet. All right. At this point, I'm going to start drawing with our orange. And so I'm taking my orange color and going over where I place that water. So I recommend starting along the edges. So what this wet technique is good for is adding light colors or blending in colors. It smells like oranges. So you see is that my shape actually looks like a circle because I'm able to add a sense of depth with how light and how dark my colors are. Do remember that when you're using the wet on wet technique, that your colors will be lighter when they start to dry. So you want to add more colors than what you probably think. This wet and wet technique is also really good for blending and adding other colors in. And mixing in your colors together. So I'm going to add my fruit in, and we're going to start with the wet on wet technique, and I'll move on to wet and dry. So at this point, you're going to want to sit and let your painting dry before you start on the wet and dry technique. So once your painting is dry, you can start with the wet on dry technique. And so what this is good for is making the colors bold and then adding defined shapes. So I'm actually going to start with our apple. And so in this case, you're just going directly from the brush into the painting. So as you can see, that red is a lot brighter than what it was before. And so what I'm doing is I'm actually defining our shapes and adding more depth of color. We have now completed our fruity still lifes. They almost smell good enough to eat. Be sure to check out the Art Museum of South Texas website for more fun projects.